Hello, and welcome back to the Veteran Coach. Today I'm going to be talking about a very requested video, which is acronyms, the top VA acronyms, my top 8. And I'm guilty of this. I talk in acronyms a lot, and there's a lot of there's not much consistency even between branches in the military. Air Force and Army acronyms are different, and the VA is different. So we're going to go over some of the 8 most commonly used and misunderstood VA acronyms. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we'll get started.
Feel free to mute me throughout this presentation, pause it, screenshot it, whatever you need to do. I will be doing a little bit more of a detailed explanation out loud, but feel free to mute it, like I said, and just read the slides as they're written. C&P exam, or a compensation and pension exam, is a medical exam of a veteran's disability performed by a VA healthcare provider or a contracted provider. Now, a huge majority of them are contracted out now since 2019 and COVID. So most of those are contracted out through QTC, VES, or LHI, or now I think it's known as OptumServe. There's a little bit of transition going on right now amongst the VA contracting providers. The VA uses these exams to gather more evidence on a veteran's claim condition before issuing a decision and assigning a rating. Now, granted, the C&P examiner does not rate you. This exam does weigh very heavily in the determination of your claim, so it is the single most important doctor's appointment during your claims process. So keep that in mind. Check out some of my other videos for some tips on how to take those on, as well as what to do if you have a bad one. And sadly, most of us have experienced that at one point in time if we've already had some claims go through. P&T, or I also hear it called T&P, same thing, permanent and total disability, and it refers to veterans whose disabilities are total, which means they're rated at 100% by the VA, and permanent, which means they have very minimal chance or no chance of their condition ever improving. The only time P&T can be revoked is if they can prove some type of fraud or obvious error. For instance, you're rated for just tinnitus. It should be 10%, but you're being paid at the 100% rate. Accidentally, some kind of decision letter mix-up. DBQ, or Disability Benefit Questionnaire, were developed as a specific means to collect the necessary medical information required in the processing of a VA claim. It's a standardized form with questions for each type of condition or condition type. There is a different DBQ for mental health conditions rather than orthopedic or gastrointestinal. Each one is standardized, and they have to follow kind of a checklist as they're going through these forms, whether it's done at a VA contractor or the VA or by a private provider. And these DBQs help physicians accurately and completely rate and record a veteran's disability during an exam. This information really helps a VA rater determine your VA disability rating, and it is what they fill out during your C&P exams. But you can also have a private provider fill out a DBQ if you have one that is versed in that kind of documentation. An IMO is very similar to the DBQ, but it can be done in a different format and does not have to follow the VA standardized format of question. It's usually done by a non-VA medical provider, and it's their professional medical opinion that your diagnosed condition as they relate to your military service. Now, these opinions can include an evaluation of previous medical records as well as medical literature referencing in support of your claimed disability. It can rebut a previous VA decision and argue that, yes, in their professional medical opinion, it is more likely than not related to your service. It can establish that link, like I said, to service connection if it's not been previously denied. And these can also show an increase in severity of your disability. HLR. If you disagree with the VA decision, you or your representative can request an HLR, or a higher level review, which is a review of your case by a senior rater to evaluate it for mistakes or obvious errors. The reviewer can determine whether an error or a difference in opinion changes the previous decision. This usually can include a 15-minute informal conference call with that senior rater if you choose that box on the form. You cannot submit new evidence with a higher level review. So if it's something that you say, hey, they didn't have that report before, then that would be a different process altogether, which would be a supplemental claim. If you have questions about HLRs, how to submit them, or how to prepare for that phone call, leave a comment below and I'll get a video out stat. VBA, or the Veteran Benefits Administration, provides a variety of benefits and services to service members, veterans, and their families. It's not just healthcare and it's not just compensation. But of course, most of us here on our channel are focused on the compensation side of the house, but they also have pension and fiduciary, insurance, education, loan guarantee service, veteran readiness, and employment service as well. SC, or service-connected, is a disability when a veteran's illness or injury or death was incurred during or was aggravated by his or her military service. A disability can be service-connected as a direct relationship to service. For example, you broke your hip, again, on orders, there's proof of documentation that it happened in the service, or as a secondary service connection. For example, acid reflux. You take a lot of anti-inflammatories for the arthritis that you now have in that hip. 15 years later, you're taking high-dose anti-inflammatories, or 800 milligram Motrin, I call it vitamin M, and that causes acid reflux. So you can file that as a secondary claim to your primary service-connected disability. A veteran's personnel file, often called a C-file, is a collection of documents to include medical personnel files relating to a veteran's service. These documents are integral to your claims journey, and if you don't already have a copy, it's highly recommended. It does take about a year to get this process, so go ahead and get that process started as soon as possible. SMC, or a VA Special Monthly Compensation, is a higher rate of compensation that is paid to veterans as well as their spouses, surviving spouses, and parents with certain needs or disabilities. Levels L through O cover specific disabilities and situations. Level R may apply if you need daily help from another person for basic needs like dressing, eating, and bathing. And level S may apply if you can't leave the house because of your service-connected disabilities and you're homebound. An example would be to provide compensation for grocery delivery, things like that. So if you have more questions about SMCs, how to apply it for them, again, leave a comment below and I'll get some more details to you guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you liked it, you know what to do. If you aren't subscribed, make sure you do that so you don't miss any updates from the Veteran Coach and team. If you have any questions, as always, leave it in the comments below. I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.